The stars in Sector 9G were silent. They always had been. For over 2 million standard cycles, this region of the Perseid Rift had remained untouched by expansion or exploration. Not because it was dangerous, quite the opposite. It was dead, empty, a black wound in the galaxy's tapestry. The galactic consensus had long cataloged it as echo-negative space, a term that meant little to anyone outside the technocratic elite. To the wider galaxy, it was simply the quiet. But then, without warning, it screamed. It began as a low-frequency pulse that bled through subspace comm channels, planetary satellites, even the ambient neural static of telepathic species. Not a sound, exactly, not words, but raw feeling, a churning, unnatural storm of terror and sorrow that seemed to stab directly into the part of the mind that remembered childhood nightmares. Dozens of ships across the region went dark within minutes. Station AI began self-terminating. The Vixari, a hyperlogical crystalline race, suffered a full-blown mindquake across 3 colonies. 8 million succumbed to immediate catatonia, their neural lattices fractured by the sheer force of something they had no context for. And still, the scream echoed. The Consensus Council convened an emergency session aboard the Ring of Accord, a kilometer-wide orbital platform above the gas giant Urox 3. Normally a place of serene contemplation and endless debate, the council now hummed with anxious unease. That alone was cause for alarm. For the most advanced species in the known galaxy, those who had long ago transcended primitive emotion, fear was a myth, an ancient fossil buried beneath logic and genetic clarity. They had no words for dread, no chemicals for panic. They prided themselves on reason. But this was not something that could be reasoned with. We are receiving overlapping distortions across over 99 communication spectrums, spoke Archmind Beltar of the Jean Continuum. Their voice, encoded through light pulse translation, flickered across the chamber. It is not a language, not a signal. It is, in essence, the feeling. Several other delegates bristled at the word. Such primitive reactions should not be possible, hissed Forn, the spire delegate of MYRR. A towering being of prismatic flesh and synaptic tendrils, Varn represented one of the most rigidly ordered species in the consensus. If this phenomenon is a remnant of the preconscious species that once occupied the rift, it must be terminated immediately. Terminated? Croaked Thelios of the Rook kin, whose race communicated via ritual patterning of feathers and electrostatic hums. You speak as if fear can be killed like a rogue algorithm. It must be, Varn insisted, before it corrupts more sectors. Our children no longer dream. Our AIs have locked themselves down. The rationality index has fallen by 14%. That has never occurred before in consensus history. There was a pause, an uncomfortable one. The consensus had no concept of prayer, but some of them, in that moment, wished they did. Then, the floor of the chamber shimmered as a new form entered. Short, clad in dark synth leather, soft-skinned, two-legged, hair on its head, a species from the very edge of the galactic fold. A human. He didn't speak right away. He simply observed, hands clasped behind his back, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched. Varn finally turned to the small figure. "Why are you here?" "Sparkborn." The human inclined his head. "Because you asked us. You were summoned to observe, not to interrupt." "I haven't said anything," the man replied, calm. Yet, he stepped forward. "Captain Rail Navarro, Earth Coalition Diplomatic Corps. Our team was dispatched after your message reached the Terran Assembly." He gave a slow smile, knowing it would unsettle them. "You called it a screaming anomaly. That caught our attention. Your species has not been granted a seat within the consensus. You are emotionally unstable, unpredictable, violent." Navarro raised an eyebrow. "All true. And yet, here we are." Thelios fluttered his wings nervously. "You do not hear it." "Oh, we hear it," Navarro replied, his expression darkening. "Loud and clear. Some of us are even having nightmares. But we're not breaking down. We're not tearing out our neural processors or cowering in panic." He leaned in slightly, eyes hard. "Because for us, this isn't new. We've been screaming since the first ape buried his brother. We just got used to it." That silenced the chamber. A hologram flickered to life above the dais, projecting the data gathered from the edge of the rift. At its center pulsed a sphere, perfectly smooth, matte black, and approximately the size of a shuttlecraft. It emitted no heat, no energy signature beyond the screen. And yet ships that approached it reported intense emotional phenomena: grief, rage, ecstasy, confusion, even love. They had dubbed it the Echo Core. The artifact hovered in an asteroid cradle at the dead heart of a system long thought lifeless. No markings, no obvious power source. And yet, its presence was undeniable. It didn't just broadcast emotion, it radiated it like a star bleeding pain. "We don't know who built it," Beltar murmured, their tone subdued. "It predates even the extinct ones. Some believe it was never built at all." Navarro looked at the projection with a frown. "What are your plans for it?" "Destruction," Varn said immediately. "We are assembling a gravity lance fleet to neutralize the anomaly. And if that makes it scream louder, we will increase the payload until it is silenced." Navarro turned to Beltar. "Has anyone tried communicating with it?" "Emotion is not a viable communication protocol," Beltar replied. "It might be the only one it understands." The room murmured with static discontent. The very idea of emotional dialogue was anathema to most of the consensus. To open oneself to feeling was to invite chaos. Navarro sighed. "You called us a spark world," he said. "Too volatile, too young, too loud. But maybe that's what's needed right now. A match in the dark." He turned toward the projection once more. "That thing isn't trying to kill us. It's in pain. And if you destroy it without understanding it, you might kill more than just the source." There was no reply, only the echo of the silent screen. Captain Rail Navarro's ship, the burning answer, cut through the void with purpose. The sleek, angular silhouette gleamed dimly beneath the cold glare of distant stars. Inside the command deck, the low hum of machinery was punctuated by the quiet murmur of the crew. Humans, each chosen not just for skill, but for their ability to endure the emotional storm that radiated from the Perseid rift. Rail sat back in his chair, arms crossed. The room smelled faintly of recycled air and burnt coffee. They'd been en route for 3 days, and already the psychological effects of proximity to the Echo Core were making themselves felt. Some crewmates struggled to sleep. Others spoke quietly to themselves. Navarro, as always, remained steady. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. "Captain, we are approaching the MYR system. The Council Spire orbit is within sensor range." Rail nodded. The MYR system was home to one of the oldest seats of the galactic consensus, a floating fortress of glass and light, surrounded by swirls of ionized gases and the faint glow of its 4 moons. "Weapons offline. Maintain stealth protocol," Navarro ordered. Behind him, Dr. Kira Soul adjusted her neural interface headset. The young xenopsychologist was the mission's lead on cognitive resonance. She was small and intense, with dark eyes that never stopped analyzing. Her presence was a comfort to Rail. She was the one who might unlock the true nature of the Echo Core's screams. Rail glanced back. "Kira, status report." She tapped her wrist console, bringing up a cascade of neural data. "Echo Core's emotional frequencies are unlike anything we've cataloged. The waves aren't random, they're patterned. It's trying to communicate, but the message is fragmented, overlaid with pulses of raw pain and fear. Our own emotional responses are triggering feedback loops in the ship's systems. Crew morale is at risk." "Any breakthroughs?" Kira shook her head. "Nothing concrete yet, but we're adapting. Humans are unique. We evolved in a world saturated with emotional chaos. That's why the consensus sent us, I think. We're resilient in ways they don't understand." Navarro nodded, but his expression was hard. "Resilient enough to survive this mission? Because if we fail, the Council will destroy the core, and we'll lose the chance to learn why it's screaming." Arrival at the Council Spire. The ship's sensors pinged with growing intensity. "We're being scanned," the communications officer said. "The Council knows we're here." "Open a channel," Navarro commanded. A translucent hologram flickered into existence before the bridge crew. Standing tall was Varn, the MYR delegate, shimmering in iridescent colors that shifted with his moods, or so the consensus believed. He regarded the humans with a mixture of disdain and wary curiosity. "Captain Navarro of Earth," Varn's voice echoed with synthetic calm. "The consensus is aware of your unsanctioned presence. You are not authorized to engage the Echo Core directly." Navarro's jaw tightened. We were invited to observe, and we have information that might prevent unnecessary bloodshed. Information or interference? Varn challenged. The core is a threat to galactic stability. Kira stepped forward, her voice steady. It's also a source of ancient knowledge. If we destroy it without understanding, we risk unleashing something worse. Varn's tendrils twitched. The consensus has survived for millennia by discarding the unpredictable. Emotion is a relic of lesser minds. We will not jeopardize order for the whims of chaos. Rail shot a look at Kira. The council was entrenched in dogma, but humans thrived in chaos. Maybe, just maybe, they could find a way through. The human delegation, a formal invitation arrived. A council chamber filled with delegates from dozens of species. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned, but none seemed intimidated. Rail introduced his team. Dr. Kira Sol, cognitive xenopsychologist, expert in emotional resonance. Lieutenant Malik Chun, security lead, former Marine with a reputation for calm under pressure. Emissary Layla Torres, diplomat skilled in cross-cultural negotiation. Engineer Omar Rahim, technical specialist focused on neural interface tech. Each had their own reasons for volunteering, curiosity, duty, hope, but all understood the mission's gravity. The council chamber was a vast, spherical hall, its walls shifting in color and pattern according to the collective mood. The delegates sat in concentric rings, observing the humans like specimens in a terrarium. Varn presided, his voice carrying across the chamber. Earth humans claim the Echo Core is a source of pain and possibly knowledge. Explain your basis for this assertion. Kira stepped forward. Her voice echoed in the chamber. The core's pulses are not random. They form a sequence, like a fragmented message, but it's encoded in pure emotion, grief, terror, and hope. We believe it contains the memories of a lost civilization, the Weepers. There was a murmur. The Weepers, said Beltar, a crystalline delegate, an ancient race that perished by drowning in their own empathy. Exactly, Kira replied. They built the Echo Core as a vessel for their collective memories and emotions, to preserve their history, their pain, and perhaps a warning. Varn's tendrils twitched again. And you suggest we listen to a scream? No, Rail said. We suggest we understand why it screams, what it's trying to say. An uneasy alliance. Despite skepticism, the council granted the human delegation limited access to the core's vicinity. They would be observers, but with authorization to conduct experiments under strict supervision. On board the Burning Answer, the team prepared for their first direct encounter. Whatever happens next, Rail said, remember, this isn't just a relic or weapon. It's a living record, and it's scared. Kira tapped her headset, linking into the ship's cognitive scanners. Ready when you are. The first contact. As the ship closed on the Echo Core, the atmosphere shifted. A wave of raw emotion washed over the crew, an overwhelming tide of sorrow, pain, and ancient despair. Some gripped their heads, struggling to focus. Others wept silently. Navarro's voice cut through the chaos. Hold steady. Kira, what's happening? She swallowed hard. It's reacting to our presence, not with hostility, but fear. It's alive, and it knows we're here. The core's surface shimmered briefly, rippling like the surface of a disturbed pond. A pulse of sound erupted, not in their ears, but inside their minds. A scream that echoed across time and space. Rail gritted his teeth. This is just the beginning. Closing thoughts. Back at the council spire, Varn and the other delegates watched the human ship's data stream. The consensus was no closer to understanding the Echo Core, but for the humans, it was becoming clear. This mission was not just about survival. It was about connection, bridging a gulf of emotion and reason, chaos and order. And in the void between stars, something ancient stirred, waiting to be heard. The Burning Answer drifted just beyond the asteroid cradle that held the Echo Core. Around them, the darkness of space felt heavier, thick with the residue of grief and fear that clung like a shroud. Captain Rail Navarro stood at the viewport, arms folded, eyes sharp. The core pulsed intermittently, an unblinking heartbeat of pure emotion. Behind him, Dr. Kira Sol worked feverishly at her console, running cognitive resonance algorithms, trying to decode the patterns buried deep within the scream. The crew, already fraying at the edges from the emotional onslaught, watched in tense silence. This was more than an artifact. It was a message, a living echo from the past. Fragmented voices. The initial scans had revealed that the echo core's signal was layered, a fractal maze of feelings, memories, and raw pain. Unlike any language known to the galaxy, it wasn't built from words or symbols, but from emotional frequencies, pure, unfiltered, and terrifying. Kira explained to Rael in the quiet of the lab. It's like a shattered diary, except the diary is made of feelings. Joy bleeds into horror. Hope fractures into despair. It's chaotic but structured. Rael rubbed his temples. And the consensus? They want to destroy it. Call it a threat to order. Kira looked grim. They don't understand that the scream is a call for help. They only hear noise. The first breakthrough. Hours passed as Kira's neural interface probed deeper into the core's emotional layers. Her screen flickered, then froze on a pattern. "Captain, look at this," she said, eyes wide. Rael leaned over. The pattern was a spiral of pulses, arranged in repeating sequences. "It's a rhythm," Kira whispered, "something resembling a heartbeat, but with embedded bursts of emotion, like laughter, then sudden terror." Navarro frowned. "Is it a language? Maybe. Or a memory loop." She activated the ship's AI to replay the pulses as low-frequency sound waves. The bridge filled with a haunting melody, alternating between soothing harmonies and agonized cries. Crew members visibly winced, but none could look away. A shared nightmare. That night, the crew experienced the Echo Core's influence most powerfully. Dreams were invaded by flickers of lost civilizations, faces racked with grief, and moments of sudden, unbearable joy. Lieutenant Malakchin, the security lead, awoke drenched in sweat. "Captain," he said, voice hoarse, I saw something. A city drowning in tears. People screaming, but no sound came out. Then I felt love, a promise, something ancient." Navarro nodded. "We're all being touched by it." Kira added, "The core isn't just sending emotions. It's sharing memories, trauma, but also history. A message in the madness." Determined to learn more, Kira devised an experimental neural sync session. Volunteers would link directly to the core's emotional signal using specially designed interfaces, allowing them to live fragments of its memory. Rail volunteered. The room was filled with quiet tension as he donned the headset. Kira calibrated the device, and a low hum filled the air. Suddenly, the world dissolved. Inside the screen, Rail's consciousness was ripped through a tunnel of raw sensation. Pain, love, loss. He found himself in a vast, shimmering cityscape, walls of crystal and light that seemed to breathe. Ghostly figures floated, faces twisted in sorrow. He saw flashes of a people, the Weepers, who had built the Echo Core to preserve their civilization's soul. They were dying, overwhelmed by the flood of their own empathy. Unable to shield themselves from collective pain, their society collapsed into despair. Rail saw their final act, pouring all their memories and feelings into the core, hoping to reach future minds. The warning. A sudden surge of terror flooded Rail's mind. He glimpsed a shadow, something dark and unrelenting, consuming the Weepers from the inside. The Echo Core's scream wasn't just pain, it was a warning. When Rail ripped free, gasping for breath, Kira was waiting anxiously. "What did you see?" "A darkness," he said. "Something that destroyed them. And it's still out there." Shifting alliances. Back on the Council Spire, news of the humans' findings stirred unrest. Varn was furious. "Your species brought chaos into our halls," he snapped. "Now you speak of darkness? This is a distraction from the core's threat." Beltar, the crystalline delegate, spoke calmly. "If the core's message is true, ignoring it could doom us all." Rail met their gaze. "We're all listening now. But understanding means cooperation, not destruction." Hope in the void. The humans returned to the burning answer, burdened but determined. Kira's voice broke the silence. "We've only just begun to understand the screen. If we fail, we lose the chance to save not only the Echo Core, but ourselves." Rail looked out at the pulsing black orb. "Then we keep listening." The core's cry echoed once more across the stars, ancient, aching, and waiting for a response. The quiet of space had never felt so heavy. Aboard the burning answer, tension simmered beneath the surface. The crew's faces were drawn and pale, shadows under their eyes telling tales of sleepless nights spent haunted by the Echo Core's relentless scream. Captain Rail Navarro paced the bridge, running through every piece of data, every echo of the core's fragmented message. Something was coming, something ancient, something unseen, and it was watching, uneasy in the silence. For days, the crew had been immersed in decoding the core's emotional pulses. Each breakthrough brought new revelations and new questions. Dr. Kira Soul stood in the lab, staring at a holographic projection of the core's energy field. To an outside observer, it looked like a swirling storm of light and shadow. But Kira saw something else, patterns within the chaos, almost like hidden shapes lurking beneath the surface. "Captain," she said softly, "the core isn't just a vessel of memories. It's a prison." Rael's brows furrowed. "A prison?" "Yes. Those emotional screams we're detecting? They're not random. They're alarms. Traps laid by the Weepers to keep something in and keep it from escaping." He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "And you think it's awake?" "More than awake. It's trying to manipulate us. The scream isn't just a call for help. It's bait." The dark presence. That night, as the crew tried to rest, a series of alarms shattered the silence. Unidentified object approaching fast. Lieutenant Malik Chin shouted from the sensors station. "Shields up. Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Navarro commanded. The object was cloaked, invisible to normal sensors, but its presence warped space-time enough to register. "An ambush?" Malik asked. "Or something worse," Navarro muttered. Kira's voice came over the comm, tense and urgent. The core's frequency just spiked. "Whatever this is, it's connected." The cloaked menace. The crew watched as the ship's AI struggled to identify the intruder. The cloaked vessel was unlike any known design. Its shape shifting, ephemeral, almost alive. Navarro made a decision. "Open a narrow communication channel. Let's see if they want to talk." Static filled the comms, then a voice, distorted and alien. "You are trespassers," it hissed. "The core's agony is our prison. You will release us all." Navarro's jaw clenched. "We're here to understand, not to release chaos." The voice laughed, a cold, chilling sound. "Understanding is a luxury of the doomed." Shadows in the mind. Kira's experiments took a darker turn. The neural sync volunteers began experiencing shared visions, nightmares of shadowy figures stalking a dying civilization, draining the emotional lifeblood of entire worlds. Rael experienced one firsthand during a sync session. He found himself in a twisting labyrinth of memories, chased by a darkness that whispered in every language, in every feeling. It promised power, freedom, but only by consuming the core's pain. When he tore free, his hands trembled. "This thing, it's a parasite. It feeds on empathy." Kira nodded. "The Weepers trapped it with the core, but its hunger never died." Divided council. The council spire buzzed with conflict. News of the alien presence and the parasitic entity fractured alliances. Varn accused the humans of stirring panic. "The core is a danger to all life. We must destroy it before the parasite escapes." Beltar argued for caution. "Destroying the core means freeing the parasite. We risk unleashing a darkness none can withstand." Rael stood before the council chamber. "We need to work together, not just to contain the core, but to understand how to fight this parasite." Murmurs filled the chamber. A plan of fire. Back aboard the Burning Answer, the team devised a risky plan. Engineer Omar Rahim had developed a neural amplifier capable of synchronizing multiple minds, creating a collective cognitive shield. "We can try to isolate the parasite's influence by linking the crew's emotions," Omar explained. "If we combine our strength, maybe we can hold it back, at least long enough to find a solution." Navarro looked at his team. "With a first line of defense. We protect the core and ourselves." The neural web. The crew gathered in the neural lab, their minds linked through the amplifier. The experience was overwhelming, emotions tangled like a storm, memories shared and amplified. Rael felt the parasite's presence brush against his consciousness, a dark tendril reaching out, probing for weaknesses. But the human minds held firm. Their shared resolve pushed back the shadows. Kira's voice came through the collective mindscape. "It's retreating, for now." The spark of hope. As the neural web dissolved, Rael saw something new. Within the core's scream, beneath the pain and fear, there was a faint pulse of something else. Hope. The Weeper's final gift wasn't just a warning, it was a spark. A fragment of resilience encoded in their last moments. "We're not just listeners," Rael said quietly. "We're part of this now." Kira smiled wearily. "And maybe that's what it takes. Not just to survive the scream, but to answer it, preparing for the long fight. The burning answer resumed its vigil, shadowed by the unseen menace. The crew was changed, touched by the darkness, but not broken. As Rail gazed out at the distant orb, he knew their journey was only beginning. The parasite lurked in the shadows. The scream echoed on, and humanity's fire was the only thing standing between them all and oblivion. The burning answer hovered in the dark cradle of the asteroid cluster. The echo core loomed ahead, a swirling sphere of shadows and light, pulsing with ancient agony and cryptic purpose. Captain Rail Navarro sat in the dimly lit briefing room, flanked by his closest advisors. The sterile walls, usually a comfort, felt claustrophobic, weighed down by the mounting secrets they sought to uncover. For days, the crew had been wrestling with the Echo Core's maddening transmissions. The scream of the Weepers echoed relentlessly through their minds, driving them deeper into the mystery. Now, they faced the most crucial question yet. What exactly was inside the core? The enigma within. Dr. Kira Soul stepped forward, her face pale but determined. The neural sync sessions had uncovered fragments of history, but the core's full secret remained elusive. We've tried every form of analysis, physical, emotional, cognitive. The core is a vessel of memory. Yes, but it's also something more. Rail nodded. You mean it's alive? Not alive in the way we understand. It's a composite consciousness, an archive of the Weeper's entire civilization, encoded through their emotions, thoughts, and collective will. Kira tapped the console, projecting a 3D map of the core's internal data streams. It's as if their souls were digitized, stitched together in a web of empathy and memory. The discovery. Suddenly, a new pattern flickered on the screen, a series of distinct pulses amid the chaotic screen. Kira's eyes widened. This isn't just noise. It's a signal, a message. Rail leaned in, heart pounding. Can we decode it? It's difficult. The message is encrypted within layers of emotional context, fear, hope, pain. But I think I can isolate the core intent. Over the next several hours, Kira worked tirelessly, her fingers flying across the neural interface. The room filled with an eerie hum as the core's pulses transformed into faint images, glimpses of a civilization frozen in time, a forgotten history. The holographic projection shifted, revealing a luminous city built of crystal spires and shimmering streets. Ethereal figures, ghostly echoes of the Weepers, moved silently through the streets. Kira narrated. The Weepers were an empathic race, deeply connected to each other's emotions. Their society was built on this bond, a symbiotic web of feelings that sustained them. Rail frowned, but that connection was also their curse. Kira nodded solemnly. As their empathy grew, so did their vulnerability. They couldn't block out pain or despair. Eventually, the collective agony overwhelmed them. The screen showed scenes of a city succumbing to madness, the population racked by waves of sorrow and terror. The core's origin. Rail's mind raced. How did the core come to be? The Weeper's last hope, Kira explained, was to preserve their entire civilization, their knowledge, memories, even their emotions, in a single repository. They created the Echo Core as a safeguard, a beacon to future sentient beings. The screen flickered again, showing the ritualistic final act. The core wasn't just a prison for their memories. It was a warning, a call for help against the parasite they had trapped inside, a silent guardian. The hologram shifted to reveal a figure, the Warden, a luminous being formed from pure empathy and will. This was the Weeper's final guardian, Kira said. An artificial intelligence created from their collective consciousness, designed to protect the core and keep the parasite contained. Rail stared, a mixture of awe and dread filling him. Can we awaken the Warden? Kira hesitated. Possibly, but it would require a deep neural interface, one that merges a living mind with the core's consciousness. It's risky. The Warden's will is tied to the core's pain, the burden of choice. Rail sat back, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. Can we trust it? What if the Warden is hostile? Kira's voice was steady but serious. The Warden is a protector. It will fight the parasite, but it may see us as a threat if we aren't careful. Navarro looked around the room. The crew had suffered under the core's screen. Now, they had to decide, dive deeper into the core, risk losing themselves, or withdraw and leave the parasite lurking in the shadows, preparing for the neural dive. The decision was unanimous. They would attempt to awaken the warden. In the ship's neural lab, Omar Rahim and Kiara Soul prepared the interface, a complex weave of technology designed to link a human mind directly to the core's network. Volunteers were scarce. The risks were immense. When no one else stepped forward, Rael made his choice. "This ends with me," he said, into the mind of the core. Connected to the interface, Rael's consciousness was pulled into the core's labyrinthine memory. He was surrounded by a flood of sensations: love, loss, hope, despair, all intertwined in an endless, echoing scream. Suddenly, the warden appeared, a figure of light and shadow, eyes glowing with the weight of millennia. "Who dares enter the sanctum?" The warden's voice resonated, a harmonic blend of many voices. "I am Rael Navarro, captain of the Burning Answer," he replied. "We come seeking understanding and alliance." The warden's test. The warden's gaze pierced him. "Why should I trust one who carries the fire of a warlike species?" Rael answered with honesty. "Because we have our own darkness to fight. Because humanity's fire can light the way through the shadow." The warden considered this, then nodded slowly. "Then hear my truth." It began to recount the Weeper's final days, the parasite's invasion, the desperate sacrifice to imprison it, the core's scream as a beacon and a chain. A new hope. Rael emerged from the neural dive changed. He carried the burden of ancient knowledge and a flicker of hope. "The warden is awake," he told Kira and Omar. "It will help us fight the parasite." Kira smiled, relief flooding her features. "This is our chance." The path ahead. As the Burning Answer prepared to continue its mission, Rael stared out at the distant echo core. The scream was no longer just pain. It was a call, a challenge, a hope. Humanity's fire had been kindled, and this time they would answer. The Burning Answer drifted closer to the echo core, now glowing faintly with a deeper light. Captain Rael Navarro stood on the bridge, the weight of recent revelations pressing on him like the vacuum of space outside. The warden was awake, its luminous presence now a guardian against the parasite lurking in the core's heart. But the parasite was far from defeated. It had learned, it was adapting, and it was hunting a growing threat. The ship's sensor officer, Lieutenant Malikchin, called out urgently, "Captain, we're picking up anomalies in the core's outer field. Energy fluctuations consistent with parasitic activity." Rael nodded grimly. "It's testing us, probing for weaknesses." Kira's soul, monitoring the core's energy, turned sharply. "The parasite's tendrils are extending, reaching into the ship's systems. It's trying to corrupt our neural interfaces." Rael knew what that meant. The parasite wasn't content to remain trapped. It wanted to escape. The neural web's fragility. Back in the neural lab, Omar Rahim and Kira worked feverishly to reinforce the collective mind shield, the neural web that linked the crew's minds to the core and to each other. "We can't let the parasite infect our minds," Omar warned, adjusting the amplifier settings. "If it breaks through, it will control us." Kira nodded, eyes scanning the fluctuating readouts. "It's like a virus. Once it gets in, it spreads fast." Rail stood nearby, steeling himself. "We're all vulnerable, but we have to hold the line." The first attack. Suddenly, alarms blared. The parasite struck. Crew members at neural sync stations cried out as dark shadows flickered across their minds. Whispers of despair and rage. Rail raced to the lab, finding his team struggling to maintain focus, their faces pale and strained. "We're losing them," Kira shouted. "The parasites infiltrating their thoughts." Rail took a deep breath, forcing calm. "We fight it together. Link minds stronger. Remember why we're here." Slowly, the crew regained control, the shared resolve pushing back the parasite's invasive tendrils. A dark revelation. With the parasite momentarily held at bay, Kira turned to the captain. "The parasite isn't just a mindless entity. It's intelligent, aware. It feeds on fear, anger, despair. It thrives in emotional chaos." Rail's eyes darkened. "It's not just trying to escape. It wants to destroy everything the Weepers built, and us too." Kira nodded. "It sees humanity's empathy as both a threat and a resource, strategy and sacrifice." The crew gathered in the briefing room, tensions high but resolve unbroken. Rail addressed them. "We have a choice. We can fight defensively keep the parasite contained while we search for a permanent solution. Or we can strike at the parasite's core, deep inside the echo core. But that mission will be dangerous. Silence fell. Finally, Omar spoke. If we don't act, it will overwhelm us all. Kira added, the core's secret isn't just knowledge. It's a weapon. If we can harness it, maybe we can end this. Into the heart of darkness. The plan was set. Rael, Kira, Omar, and a small team would enter the core's neural network directly, diving deep to locate and confront the parasite's essence. The neural dive was risky. The parasite would be strongest there, and the mindscape would be a battlefield of emotions and memories, shifting and dangerous. The neural descent. Connected to the neural interface, Rael felt himself plunge into the core's memory labyrinth once more. The landscape twisted, familiar and alien, crystal towers shattered by shadows, streets echoing with the cries of the lost weepers. But beneath it all, the parasite waited, an ever-growing mass of darkness, pulsing with hunger. Rael's mind was assaulted by waves of despair, whispers promising power if he surrendered. He clenched his mental fists. I am human. I am fire. The warden's aide. Suddenly, the warden appeared, its light cutting through the darkness. Your fire is a beacon, it said, but alone, it will burn out. The warden extended a hand, and Rael felt strength flooding his mind, memories of the Weeper's hope and sacrifice merging with his own resolve. Together, they advanced, confronting the parasite. At the core's heart, the parasite awaited, a shifting mass of shadows and broken emotions, claws reaching to devour. It hissed, you cannot contain me forever. Rael faced it. Maybe not, but we can fight. The battle was fierce, a storm of emotions, whilst clashing in a war of minds. Rael drew on everything, human empathy, hope, and willpower, the fire the parasite had never expected. The turning tide. As the struggle reached its peak, the warden unleashed a burst of radiant energy, sealing parts of the parasite's essence in a prison of light. The parasite recoiled, weakened but not defeated. Rael felt exhaustion creeping in, but also victory. We've bought time, he gasped. Kira's voice echoed in his mind. Time to find the core's weapon. Aftermath and resolve. The crew emerged from the neural dive shaken but alive. Rael addressed them. The parasite is cunning and relentless, but so are we, Kira added. We know what we face. Now, we find a way to end this, once and for all. The burning answer resumed its vigil, the core's light flickering like a distant star, an ancient beacon of hope in the vast darkness. The burning answer hovered on the edge of the echo core, the dim glow of its heart pulsing faintly through the ship's view screens. The crew was battered but resolute, their minds and bodies stretched to the limit after the brutal encounter with the parasite in the core's neural network. Captain Rael Navarro stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the flickering orb ahead. The warden's presence filled the ship like a silent guardian, a shimmering force field against the parasite's shadow. But something new had emerged from the last battle. A clue, a whisper of hope buried deep within the core's memory banks. The clue in the darkness. Dr. Kira's soul gathered the team in the neural lab, her face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the console screens. During the last dive, we intercepted a fragmented data pattern, something the parasite tried to hide, she began. It looks like a weapon, but not a weapon in the traditional sense. Rael raised an eyebrow. What kind of weapon? Kira hesitated, then pressed a button. A holographic projection shimmered above the console, a complex lattice of energy, interwoven with crystalline strands, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. This, she said, is what the Weepers left behind to fight the parasite, a weapon embedded in the core's very fabric. But it's not a machine or a missile. It's a weapon of pure empathy. Empathy is power. The room fell silent. Omar Rahim, the ship's engineer, leaned forward, fascinated. How can empathy be a weapon? Kira smiled faintly. The Weepers were an empathic species. They understood that their greatest strength and their greatest vulnerability was their connection to each other's emotions. She gestured to the hologram. This weapon channels that connection, amplifying positive emotions, hope, love, courage, into a concentrated energy. It's a force that can push back the parasite, which feeds on negative emotions like fear and despair. Rail's expression hardened, so we have to find a way to activate it. Unlocking the code. Kira tapped the console, bringing up a series of intricate patterns and symbols. The weapon is encoded in the core's memory, but it's locked behind emotional gates, triggers tied to the Weeper's collective experiences. To unlock it, we have to recreate those emotions, tap into the core's history in a way the parasite can't anticipate. Rail exchanged a glance with Omar. Sounds like a mental puzzle. Kira nodded. Exactly. But it's more than that. We have to connect deeply, emotionally and mentally with the core. It's going to be exhausting, but it might be our only chance. Preparing the crew. The crew gathered in the neural lab for the next dive. Nervous energy filled the air. Rail addressed them, his voice steady but resolute. This is more than just a mission. It's a test of who we are as humans. The Weepers fought with their emotions. We will too. Omar adjusted the neural interfaces, ensuring the web could handle the emotional depth required. Kira took a deep breath. Remember, this isn't just about logic or strength. It's about hope, the descent into memory. Connected to the neural web, Rail's consciousness slipped once again into the core's labyrinth of memory and emotion. But this time, the landscape was different. Gone were the shattered spires and echoes of despair. Instead, he found himself surrounded by vibrant scenes of the Weeper's past, moments of joy, unity, and courage. Children playing under crystal trees, communal celebrations of light and song, acts of kindness and sacrifice. The warmth of these memories was almost overwhelming, filling Rail's mind with a surge of energy. The emotional puzzle. Kira's voice echoed softly in his mind. Focus on these emotions. Feel them. Let them guide you. Rail reached out mentally, touching the strands of memory. Symbols and patterns began to glow, unlocking doors within the neural maze. But the parasite was lurking, still trying to inject doubt and fear. Rail felt the creeping shadow, the old whispers promising surrender and pain. He fought back, drawing strength from the memories, the hope they represented. The weapon revealed. At last, Rail reached the core's heart, a vast chamber of crystal light. In the center hovered the weapon, a radiant lattice of empathy energy, pulsing with a gentle but unstoppable force. Rail reached out, feeling the warmth spread through him. The weapon was alive, an embodiment of everything the Weepers had been and hoped to be. It responded to his resolve, amplifying his courage and hope. A surge of power. As Rail connected fully with the weapon, a wave of energy radiated outward through the core's neural network. The parasite screamed, a horrible sound of rage and pain, as the weapon's light burned through its shadows. Back on the ship, the crew felt the shift immediately. The oppressive atmosphere lifted. The screams that had haunted their minds softened, replaced by a deep calm. The aftershock. Rail awoke from the neural dive, breathless but victorious. We've activated the weapon, he told the crew. Kira smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. This is just the beginning. The weapon needs to be sustained, powered by our connection to it. Omar nodded. It's a link between us and the core. The stronger we are as a crew, the stronger the weapon becomes. A new hope. The parasite was not defeated, but it was weakened. The Echo Core, once a prison of pain, had become a beacon of hope. Rail looked out at the glowing orb through the ship's viewport. This weapon, it's more than just a tool. It's a testament to what humanity can become. The crew stood together, ready to face the darkness ahead, not just with fire and steel, but with empathy, hope, and unity. The glow of the Echo Core had shifted from a faint pulse to a steady, radiant beacon. The weapon within it, an empathic lattice born from the Weeper's own history, now hummed with power, feeding off the crew's renewed hope and unity. For the first time in months, the parasite seemed contained, weakened beneath the weight of pure empathy and human will. But hope can be fragile. Even light can fracture. The uneasy calm. The burning answer drifted quietly in the shadow of the core, systems humming with an almost serene energy. Captain Rail Navarro and his team took a moment to breathe, their minds still recovering from the neural dive that had revealed the core's weapon. Yet, beneath this calm, subtle disturbances rippled through the ship. Lieutenant Malik Chin was the first to notice. Captain, unusual power fluctuations in the core's energy field. Rail frowned, his instincts sharpening. Details. Malik's fingers flew over the console. The energy is spiking in short bursts, almost like pulses. But these aren't random, they're patterned. A crack in the armor. In the neural lab, Dr. Kira Soul analyzed the data alongside Omar Rahim. This isn't just power instability, Kira said, voice tense. It's like the weapon's structure is fracturing, breaking down in places. Omar grimaced. If the weapon fractures, it could lose coherence. The parasite could exploit that. Rail's mind raced. Is there any way to stabilize it? Kira shook her head. It's tied to our collective emotional state. Any discord, any fear or doubt could weaken the weapon. Seeds of discord. The crew, already weary from battle and loss, began to feel the strain. Minor conflicts erupted over trivial matters. Nervous glances turned into whispered doubts. Some questioned Rail's leadership. Others feared the parasite's growing cunning. In the mess hall, tensions boiled over. I don't know how much longer we can keep this up, murmured one crew member. Another snapped back. We don't have a choice. If we fracture, the parasite wins. Rail heard these murmurs, knowing the true battle was no longer just in the core but in the hearts of his crew. The parasite's whisper. In the dark recesses of the neural network, the parasite sensed the fractures. It began a new strategy, not just to attack, but to manipulate. It whispered doubts into the minds of the crew during neural syncs, subtle lies and fears, twisting their thoughts. Rail felt it himself one night during a rest cycle, the seductive voice promising safety if he gave in, if he let go. But he resisted, drawing on the empathy weapon's light and the memory of the Weeper's sacrifice. A rift in the web. One evening, during a routine Neuralink session, an alarm blared. Neural web instability. Omar shouted. A breach. Rail rushed to the lab. There, a crew member lay unconscious, their mind invaded by a parasitic tendril. Kira and Omar worked frantically to extract the parasite's influence. We've got a breach in the neural web, Kira said grimly. The parasite is exploiting the emotional fractures. Rail realized this wasn't just an external threat anymore. It was internal. Rallying the crew, Rail called a ship-wide meeting. Standing before his exhausted, anxious crew, he spoke with raw honesty. We face not only an enemy outside us, but the shadows inside. Fear and doubt weaken us, but together, we can hold strong. He shared the truth about the weapon's dependence on their unity. Each of us is a part of this. Our emotions, our connections, they're the weapon and the shield. He urged openness, trust, and resilience. Rekindling unity. Kira led the crew in exercises designed to strengthen their emotional bonds, a series of shared memories, storytelling, and mutual support rituals. Omar adjusted the neural web to better detect and filter parasitic interference. Slowly, the fractures began to heal. Tensions eased, whispers quieted, hope flickered back. A new danger emerges. But the parasite was not defeated. In the core's shadowy depths, it mutated, becoming more cunning, more insidious. It began to take physical form within the neural network. Tendrils of darkness that could corrupt machines, infect minds, and manipulate reality inside the core. Rail and Kira realized the battle was evolving. They would have to fight not just for survival, but for the soul of the ship and the fate of all who depended on the Echo Core's light. Preparing for the next battle, Rail stood once more on the bridge, the weight of leadership heavier than ever. He looked at his crew, no longer just survivors, but warriors of empathy and hope. We've seen the fractures, we've felt the fear, but we are stronger than that. Kira joined him. We have a weapon unlike any other, and the heart to wield it. Omar smiled grimly. Let's make sure the parasite knows humanity's light won't be dimmed. The fragile light. As the burning answer orbited the Echo Core, its light steady but tested, the crew prepared for the battles ahead. Fractures might appear, shadows might creep close, but the light, humanity's spark, would not be extinguished. The glow of the Echo Core pulsed steadily as the burning answer hovered in orbit. After surviving the parasite's attempts to fracture their unity and corrupt their minds, the crew had forged a fragile bond that sustained the empathic weapon. But the parasite's insidious evolution demanded more than defense. It demanded an offensive strike directly into the core itself. Rail Navarro, captain of the Burning Answer, stood at the front of the bridge, staring at the vast neural structure displayed on the view screens. The core was more than a vast digital repository. It was a living archive of the Weeper's history, culture, and emotions. And at its very center was the weapon, a radiant lattice of empathy energy. But to truly end the parasite's reign, to purify the core, they had to reach its heart. Planning the descent, the crew gathered in the neural lab for the final phase of their plan. Kira Sol, the ship's chief scientist and empath, outlined the mission. We're going to dive deep, farther than ever before, into the core's neural web. The heart lies beyond layers of memory, emotion, and security protocols designed by the Weepers to protect this weapon. Omar Rahim, the engineer, ran simulations on the neural interface systems. This will push our tech to the limit. The core's defenses will respond aggressively. The parasite knows what we're trying to do. It'll fight us at every turn. Rail nodded. We go as one. Our minds linked. Our emotions aligned. Our unity is our weapon. Entering the core. Connected to the neural web, the crew's consciousness slipped into the core once more, this time as a collective, a living network of human minds intertwined. The landscape was surreal, an endless expanse of shifting colors and structures, echoing with the memories and feelings of a long-lost civilization. Kira guided them, her empathy linking them to the Weeper's emotional currents. Feel the core, she instructed. It's alive. It responds to us. Rail led the way, moving through crystalline corridors of light and sound, each step drawing them closer to the core's pulsating heart. The parasite strikes back, but the parasite had anticipated their arrival. Dark tendrils twisted through the neural pathways, erupting into monstrous shapes that clawed at the crew's consciousness. Rail felt its cold grip, a wave of despair threatening to overwhelm him. But instead of retreating, he reached deeper into the weapon's empathic light, calling on the crew's combined hope and courage. The parasite recoiled, its form flickering and weakening. Kira's voice pierced through the chaos. Focus on the heart. It's just ahead, the heart revealed. At last, they reached the core's center. It was a chamber of radiant light, where the empathic weapon's energy surged like a living flame. In the center floated a crystal, humming with pure empathy energy, bright enough to blind. Rail approached it carefully. This is it, he whispered. But the weapon required activation. It was not simply a relic, but a living force that needed to be awakened by true understanding and sacrifice. The test of sacrifice. Kira explained the final challenge. To wield this weapon, we must offer something in return, a sacrifice of something precious. The Weepers gave their memories, their emotions, their very essence to forge this. Rail understood immediately. We offer ourselves, our fears, doubts, and pain, so the weapon can transform them into strength. One by one, the crew connected their consciousness deeper to the crystal. They relived their worst moments, loss, failure, fear, but instead of despair, the weapon absorbed these emotions, turning them into radiant energy. Rail felt his heart breaking and healing simultaneously, a pain that was also hope. The weapon awakens. The crystal flared, releasing a pulse of pure empathy energy that radiated through the neural web. The parasite screamed in agony as the weapon's light spread like wildfire, burning away the darkness. Back on the burning answer, the ship shuddered under the force of the release. The echo core itself began to glow steadily, its corrupted parts healing and renewing. Aftermath and reflection. Rail opened his eyes, breathless but victorious. We did it, he said quietly. Kira smiled, tears shining in her eyes. This weapon isn't just a tool. It's a legacy, a reminder of what empathy and connection can achieve. Omar checked the systems. The core is stabilizing. The parasite's hold is breaking. A new beginning. As the burning answer prepared to return to Earth, the crew understood their mission was more than a battle against a parasite. It was a testament to humanity's greatest strength, the power to turn pain into hope, fear into courage, and isolation into unity. Rail stood at the viewport, watching the glowing core. The heart of the core beats with us now, and so does the future. The burning answer hummed quietly as it broke orbit of the echo core. The vast space around it now bathed in a gentle, steady glow, the radiant pulse of a purified core. The long, grueling battle had ended, but the journey was far from over. The parasite had been driven out, its dark tendrils burned away by humanity's empathy weapon, yet the true test lay ahead. For the crew of the Burning Answer, and indeed for all of humanity, this was a new dawn, a fragile beginning, lit by the spark they had kindled deep within the heart of the universe. Returning as legends, Captain Rael Navarro stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the stars ahead. The distant blue-green orb of Earth awaited them, a home forever changed by their actions. Beside him, Kira Soul gently disconnected from the neural interface, her face glowing with a mix of relief and exhaustion. "We've given them hope," she said softly. "Not just the Weepers, but every life connected to that core." Omar Rahim adjusted the ship's course. "And we've given humanity a weapon unlike any other, a weapon born of empathy, sacrifice, and unity. A light that no darkness can extinguish." Rail nodded. "We brought back more than just a victory. We brought back a promise." Echoes across the stars. The news of the Echo Corps' salvation rippled through the galactic community like a beacon of hope. Allied civilizations, previously wary of humanity's unpredictable nature, began to see Earth in a new light. Messages of support and curiosity flooded in. Some sought to study the Corps' technology. Others wished to learn from humanity's unique strength, the power of empathy weaponized. Ambassadors arrived to witness the relic and meet the crew who had become heroes. Rael and his team were invited to speak before the Galactic Council, where they shared the lessons of unity and resilience, healing old wounds. But victory was bittersweet. The parasite had left scars, both on the core and within the crew. Many struggled with the memories of invasion, the psychic assaults that nearly shattered their minds. Rael himself carried the weight of leadership, the burden of every choice made in the fight. Yet through shared healing rituals and support, the crew found strength in their bonds. Their unity was no longer just a tactic, it was family. A new mission. With the parasite defeated and the core stabilized, new questions emerged. What was the true purpose of the Weeper's empathic weapon? Why had they sacrificed so much to protect it? And what role would humanity play in this broader cosmic story? Rael gathered his crew. "We've proven what we can do when we stand together. But this is just the beginning. The Core's light is a spark in a dark universe." Kira added, "There are other threats out there, other shadows. But we have a weapon now, one born not of destruction, but of connection." Omar smiled, eyes bright, "And a crew ready to face them." Legacy of the Weepers. Back in the Neural Lab, the crew studied the Core's data archives. They discovered more of the Weepers' history, their rise, their fall, and the sacrifices made to contain the parasite. But they also found something unexpected: messages of hope. The Weepers had believed that one day, a species would rise with the strength to wield their weapon, to heal what was broken and carry their legacy forward. Now, that species was humanity, the light within. In a private moment, Rael stood before the glowing core chamber, feeling the steady pulse of empathy energy. He reflected on everything they had endured, the fear, the loss, the triumph. The weapon was more than technology. It was a mirror of their own hearts. And it had taught them that the greatest strength was not in firepower or force, but in the fragile, fierce light of connection. A universe changed. As the Burning Answer set course for Earth, the galaxy itself seemed transformed. The parasite's defeat had sent shockwaves through neighboring systems, inspiring alliances and opening doors long closed. The Core's light became a symbol of resistance, of hope, and of humanity's potential to rise beyond its limits. Final reflections. In the ship's quiet moments, Rael wrote a message to Earth. He spoke not of battles or victories, but of something deeper. We are not alone. Our strength lies not in our weapons, but in our hearts. Together, we can light the darkest night. Together, we are the spark that screamed across the stars. Dawn of a new age. The chapter closed with the Burning Answer sailing through the stars, carrying humanity's light forward into a universe that was vast, uncertain, and now filled with new possibilities. The parasite was gone, but the story of hope, sacrifice, and the enduring power of connection, was just beginning.